Emma.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Jill, and today we're going to be talking about the famous U.S. Supreme Court case, U.S. versus Schenck.
So Tyler, what's the backstory behind this case anyway?
Well, Emma, it all started shortly after America joined World War I. Around this time, it was common for the average man to receive a draft notice calling him to war. Now, a man by the name of Charles Schenck was part of the socialist anti-war activists, so obviously he was not a fan of this draft. In order to protest against it, he and his friend Elizabeth Bayer mailed out nearly 15,000 flyers calling for men to resist the military draft peacefully. Schenck and Bayer protested, saying the draft violated the 13th Amendment rights of the people of involuntary servitude. After the news reached around that they both had sent out flyers, they were arrested under the Espionage Act.
So, what's the Espionage Act?
The Espionage Act stated that it was illegal to make or convey false reports or false statements with intent to interfere with the operation or success of the military or naval forces of the United States.
That's right, Jill. And because of this act, Schenck and Bayer were seen at fault. However, it doesn't end there, because they then appealed to the Supreme Court and had their case heard on January 9th, 1919, stating that the Espionage Act violated their First Amendment rights, which is the freedom of speech.
So what did the court rule?
I'm glad you asked. So on March 3rd, the court released their unanimous ruling of 9-0, upholding his conviction, and that the Espionage Act did not violate the First Amendment. The reason behind it being that while freedom of speech is protected by the First Amendment, it can become subject to question when it is in the nature of causing a clear and present danger. It should also be noted that it was said that when a nation is at war, many things that might be said in a time of peace become such a hindrance to its effort that their utterance will not be endured so long as men fight. That basically meaning that during war, things might even more so not be allowed than during a time of peace. Just as it's been said that we can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater or bomb on a plane, because they cause chaos and imminent danger to those around you, infringing on their right to safety. This all correlates with the fact that there may be a time, place, and manner restriction on the First Amendment.
You know, this reminds me of two really familiar cases I've heard of before. One being Brandenburg versus Ohio, and the other being Abrams versus United States.
What are those cases about?
Well, Abrams versus the United States actually took place around the same time as Schenck versus the United States. The facts from the story are that Jacob Abrams was convicted for violating the Espionage Act, since he was publishing materials that were encouraging a strike that would affect the weapon production for the war. Once again, the court had to look and see if the Espionage Act was violating his freedom of speech right. And once again, they ruled that the U.S. was in the right. However, in this case, they didn't have a unanimous vote. Continuing on the Brandenburg versus Ohio case, Brandenburg was a KKK leader who had made a speech at a KKK rally and later was convicted under the Ohio criminal syndicalism law. This law made it illegal to advocate for crime, sabotage, violence, or unlawful methods of terrorism. The question at hand was if the law infringed upon the freedom of speech right. In this case, however, the court ruled in favor of Brandenburg, which changed the qualifications of something falling under the Freedom of Speech Act to no longer whether caused a clear and present danger, but now to if it is likely to incite imminent and lawless action.
Alright, so here we have a political cartoon, and in this political cartoon shown on the screen, there appears to be a man yelling into a megaphone, saying, "Stop interfering with my freedom of speech," to a man that has a smaller megaphone. This relates to our Supreme Court case because it shows how nobody wants their freedom of speech taken away. However, if not careful, we can infringe upon one another's rights. So here's another political cartoon that correlates with our case. Here it is pictured that the Espionage Bill has taken Lady Liberty's torch that says Enlightenment. This shows that the Espionage Act has a grip on the knowledge that one can share.
Thanks for watching!
I hope you had fun.
We hope you learned something about Schenck versus the United States.